Scary telling.
I couldn't believe it when we first landed on the desert beach planet. We had been traveling for what felt like ages, cooped up in our little pod with nothing but each other for company. But now, we were finally here, standing on the sandy shore and looking out at the strange new world before us. The planet was unlike anything I had ever seen before. The sky was a sickly bog color, and the air was thick and humid, making it difficult to breathe. But despite the harsh conditions, I was excited to start exploring. We spent the first few days setting up camp and getting our bearings. We repurposed bits of our pod into makeshift shelters, using whatever tools we had on hand to make them as comfortable as possible. We had brought enough food to last us a year, but we knew we needed to start exploring the planet if we were going to find anything else to sustain us. That's when we first discovered the shallows. It was just a small stretch of water, barely knee-deep, but there was something about it that drew us in. At first, we thought it was just the novelty of being able to swim on a planet other than Earth, but then we started to hear whispers and see visions in the water. I'll never forget the first time it happened to me. I was wading in the shallows, feeling the warm water around my legs, when I suddenly heard my wife's voice. It was faint at first, but then it grew stronger, and I could hear her laughing and talking as if she was right next to me. I was startled, to say the least. I knew it wasn't possible for her to be there with me, but the vision was so real that it felt like she was. It was almost like the planet was feeding off my memories and desires, creating a world that felt like home. As the days went on, more and more of us were drawn to the shallows. We couldn't resist the lure of the visions and the whispers, and we found ourselves spending more and more time in the water. It was a strange feeling, being on this planet and feeling so connected to our past lives on Earth. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, we started to realize that something wasn't quite right. We were becoming obsessed with the shallows, unable to tear ourselves away from the visions and the calls from home. We knew we had a job to do, but we couldn't resist the pull of the water. Looking back on it now, I realize how naive we were. We should have known that there was something more to the shallows than just visions and whispers. But at the time, we were too caught up in our own desires to see the truth. And that was just the beginning of our descent into madness. As time went on, the allure of the shallows only grew stronger. We couldn't get enough of the visions and whispers that promised us a return to our loved ones and our happiest memories. Despite the warnings of our fellow team members, more and more of us were pulled into the water. We started spending entire days wading in the shallows, lost in our own little worlds of memories and desires. It was like the planet was alive, feeding off our emotions and our memories to create a world that felt like home. And the more we indulged in the visions and whispers, the stronger they became. I started to notice that some of my fellow team members were becoming obsessed with the shallows. They would wade in for hours on end, barely coming up for air. It was like they couldn't bear to be away from the visions and the calls from home. And then Maureen disappeared. We had all been waiting in the shallows, lost in our own little worlds, when suddenly Maureen was gone. It happened so quickly that none of us even realized what had happened until it was too late. I remember the panic that set in when we realized she was missing. We searched the water frantically, calling out her name, but she was nowhere to be found. It was a wake-up call for all of us. We realized that there was something more to the shallows than just visions and whispers. Something dangerous and unpredictable. But despite the danger, we couldn't stay away. The visions and calls from home were too strong to resist, and we found ourselves drawn back into the water time and time again. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, the food supplies began to run low. Desperation set in among the team members, and we knew we needed to find a way to survive. But even as we scoured the planet for food and resources, the shallows continued to pull at us. We couldn't resist the allure of the water, no matter how dangerous it had become. Looking back on it now, I realize how foolish we were. We should have known better than to indulge in the visions and whispers, to let the planet use our memories and desires to feed its own hunger. But at the time, we were too caught up in our own desperation and longing to see the truth. And as the team members continued to disappear into the shallows, we knew that our time on the planet was running out. As the food supplies dwindled and the danger of the shallows became more apparent, we knew that we were facing an ultimatum. We could either eke out a miserable existence on the planet, living off the stock of food we had brought with us, or risk the allure of the shallows. For some of us, the choice was clear. We couldn't bear the thought of spending the rest of our lives on this deserted planet, with nothing but the memories of our past lives to keep us company. We wanted more. We wanted to feel the embrace of our loved ones again, to taste our favorite foods, to relive the happiest moments of our lives. And so, one by one, we began to wade into the shallows, heedless of the warnings of our fellow team members. We were consumed by the visions and the whispers, unable to resist the pull of the water. At first, it was just knee-deep wading. We were careful to stay close to the shore, not venturing too far out into the water. But as time went on, the allure of the shallows became stronger, and we found ourselves wading deeper and deeper into the water. It was a dangerous game we were playing, and we all knew it. But we were too consumed by the visions and the calls from home to care about the consequences. Looking back on it now, I realize how foolish we were. We were risking our lives for the promise of something that might not even exist. But at the time, we were too consumed by our own desires to see the truth. And then one day, Joey disappeared. We had all been waiting in the shallows, lost in our own little worlds, when suddenly Joey started to wade deeper into the water. He was so consumed by the visions and the whispers that he didn't even seem to notice when the water reached his chest. And then he was gone, pulled under the water by some unseen force. It was a wake-up call for all of us. We realized that the allure of the shallows was more dangerous than we had ever imagined. But even as we mourned the loss of our friend, we found ourselves drawn back into the water, unable to resist the pull of the visions and the whispers. For some of us, the ultimatum was clear. We were willing to risk everything for the promise of something more, even if it meant our own demise. But for others, the risk was too great, and they chose to stay on the shore, eking out a miserable existence in the hopes of eventual rescue. As the months went on, the team members continued to disappear into the shallows, leaving behind only echoes of their memories. We knew that our time on the planet was running out, but we were powerless to resist the allure of the water. As more exploratory pods landed on the planet, none returned. The planet became known as a cursed place, haunted by the ghosts of those who had fallen prey to the shallows' call. The rumors of a paradise filled with reunited loved ones continued to spread throughout the galaxy, luring in new explorers. But those who were foolish enough to heed the call never returned, consumed by the allure of the shallows and the hunger of the planet. We knew the truth now, that the visions and whispers were nothing more than a trap, a way for the planet to feed off our emotions and memories. But even as we realized the danger, we found ourselves drawn back to the water, unable to resist the pull of the memories and the desire for something more. And then one day, a new traveler arrived on the planet. He had heard the rumors of the paradise and had been lured in by the promise of a reunion with his long-lost wife. We tried to warn him, to tell him the truth about the shallows and the curse of the planet. But he wouldn't listen. He was consumed by the same desires and longing that had led us down the same path. And so, we watched as he waded into the shallows, lost in his own world of memories and desires. We knew what would happen to him, that he would be consumed by the hunger of the planet and become just another ghost haunting the deserted beach. It was a cycle that continued endlessly, with more and more travelers falling prey to the endless temptation of the shallows, their memories and desires used to feed the planet's insatiable hunger. We knew that there was no escaping the curse of the planet, that we were doomed to spend the rest of our lives lost in our own little worlds of memories and desires. Looking back on it now, I realize how foolish we were to ever think that there was anything more to the planet than just a trap, a way for the planet to feed off our emotions and memories. But even as we were consumed by the curse of the planet, we couldn't help but long for something more. For a life beyond the deserted beach, for a reunion with our loved ones, for a world where we didn't have to live in a perpetual state of longing and desire. But we knew that that world was nothing more than a pipe dream, a figment of our own imaginations. And so, we resigned ourselves to our fate, lost in our own little worlds, consumed by the endless temptation of the shallows. As the years went by, we became more and more consumed by the curse of the planet. We were lost in our own little worlds, unable to escape the allure of the shallows. But even as we lived out our days lost in our own memories and desires, we couldn't help but long for something more. For a life beyond the deserted beach, for a world where we didn't have to live in a perpetual state of longing and desire. And so, we started to explore the planet in a new way. We looked for ways to escape the curse, to find a way to break free from the endless cycle of desire and temptation. We scoured the planet for resources, searching for a way to build a craft that would allow us to leave the cursed planet behind. It was a daunting task, and we knew that the odds were against us. But we were determined. We refused to spend the rest of our lives lost in our own little worlds, consumed by the endless temptation of the shallows. And then, one day, we found what we had been searching for. A cache of resources hidden deep beneath the sand, just waiting to be found. We worked tirelessly to build the craft, using all of our knowledge and expertise to create something that would allow us to escape the cursed planet. And then, finally, it was ready. We climbed aboard the craft, our hearts beating with anticipation and fear. As we lifted off from the planet's surface, I couldn't help but look back at the deserted beach below. The allure of the shallows was still there, calling to me, tempting me with the promise of something more. But this time, I was able to resist. I knew that the curse of the planet would always be there, tempting and calling to us. But now, we had a chance to break free, to escape the endless cycle of desire and temptation. As we soared through space, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. We had escaped the curse of the planet, and now we were free to explore the vast expanse of the universe. But even as we left the planet behind, I couldn't help but feel a longing for home. For the life I had left behind on Earth, for the people and places that I had loved and lost. It was a feeling that I knew would never truly go away. But now, I had the rest of the universe to explore, and the promise of new adventures and experiences to come.